who's going to have the guts to put their hand up and say, light speed skipping is stupid, sir. And here are the reasons it's stupid going back 30 years. Do you want to be shut up and be a team player. Even Mad Mardigan gets it.
Yeah.
The greatest weapon is love.
And that's the theme of Willow.
Willow episode 5.
Which I don't remember.
I think the show is getting progressively shittier with each and every episode.
I think you're probably right.
So the episode opens with them outside of Bavmorda's castle, and they're being chased by the Crone's demon monsters.
Right.
And Willow fashions a flamethrower and cooks 2 of them. And then they're like, they're never going to give up. We have to go into the Wildwood to escape them. They won't follow us there because it's haunted.
Everybody knows evil things don't go into haunted forests. I mean, they might be mindless ghouls.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm not going in there. There's like bugs and shit in there.
So the forest is infected or is inhabited by the Bone Reavers, who are these murderous outlaws who murder people and cut off their heads and take their skulls and make masks out of their skulls.
Yes.
This is important to keep in mind.
Yes.
These vicious, butchering marauders live in the forest.
Yes. Okay. And apparently, like, the first bone marauder ever was General Kale. He was the first because he wore a skull helmet and was all scary looking.
So they go in there, and of course, they're captured.
Of course.
By the Bone Reavers. And then, let's just keep it simple. They escape. There's a karate fight. And the red-haired girl has a tattoo that the leader of the Bone Reavers sees and recognizes. And says, hey, that means we have the same father. You guys are cool. And then they have a party.
Yes.
And then Kit and red-haired girl are going to reconcile, except Kit gets kidnapped at the last second. Yep. And that's what happens in this episode.
Now I'm remembering. It's like Kit, who had this lifelong vengeance, like, in her mind, you know, like, this was her character arc. It was all about vengeance for the death of her family. And then in one episode, in 5 minutes, you completely retcon it, undo it, and go, no, that's not what happened. It went like this, actually. And she's like, oh, cool, then I guess I love you guys. You guys are awesome.
Astonishing how these butchering marauders, who a few minutes earlier they're saying, we can't trust, they cut off people's faces and use them as masks.
Yes.
What a bunch of freaking psychos. Never mind, they're family. We're having a party with modern music that completely takes you out of the moment for some reason.
I hate the modern music in this so much.
I hate it
so much. One of the joys of Willow, the original, was its awesome fantasy music by James Horner. I mean, it's one of the best scores for a movie ever. It's really good. And this, not so much.
It's just these clashing styles. We've talked about the dialogue and the line delivery. And Kit just talks like a valley girl who doesn't even care.
Like whatever and junk.
And Bowman talks like he's doing Doctor Who, because that's the dumb crap he came out of. And then they throw in modern songs. None of it fits. It all takes you out of the moment. And when you look at who the writers and directors were, it makes perfect sense, because they're jackasses that never did shit, ever. It's so amateurishly done. It reeks of amateurism.
That is such the problem. And if we compare it to, now I've forgotten, if we compare it to Andor and the people behind it, that made all the difference. You had these people who had a lot of experience. They know how to tell a story. This is all just made up on the fly and poorly.
Which solidifies what my fear was. That a bunch of executives were sitting around in Buena Vista and realizing, HBO streaming service just launched their House of Dragon. This is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to do? Apple TV is about to launch their Lord of the Rings. What do you want? We don't have a high fantasy show. Well, we don't have anything. Well, you guys better get on it and give me something by next week. Okay. Start going through the ledgers. What do we own? Willow, you ever hear of this? No, it's from LucasArts before they became big.
Never heard of it.
We own it? That's fantasy. Just use that. Okay. Who do we get? Just get some people. It's already written.
It doesn't matter.
It's a reboot. Oh, okay. Great. people who didn't understand what the film was, clearly,
Right.
don't understand the genre, don't understand the characters, don't understand the backstory or the universe that's already been established, and this is the result.
This is what you get.
It's like I go to the central Australian desert and I pick some Aboriginal up out of a village somewhere, and I tell him, I want you to write a Star Trek series for me. And he says, what's that, mate? It's this crew lives on a starship. It's a spaceship. It's called the Enterprise, and they go fly around and they get in all these adventures. And that's all I tell him. He's like, yeah, I can write something like that.
And then that's the story you go with, and you're like, fine, it's fine.
Who Kirk is, or who Spock is, or who any of these backstories are, or what the story of the Federation or the galaxy looks like at the time.
Honestly, it would be as if you came to me and said, Chuck, will you write a Star Trek story? And I said, sure, I'll write a Star Trek story. Have you seen Star Trek? Like this much. I've seen a little bit. I wasn't really a big fan. I'm more a fan of like Star Wars and like big explosions and things. But I can make this work. Oh, and I like Fast and the Furious. So it'll all fit. It'll be fine.
Who's the main villain in Star Trek? The Klingons? Okay, the Klingons are building a giant space station that can destroy a planet.
That's exactly what
and
you
our
end
group
up
of
with.
heroes have to take their fighters and fly there and destroy it. It'll be awesome. And we're going to have a lot of karate fights. Charles, this doesn't really fit. Whoa. You told me Kirk, Spock, Uhura on a spaceship called the Enterprise. That's what I gave you. This is awesome. Look, they're attacking this giant Death Star weapon. This is what you have. You've done no research. You just out of the blue decided, oh, yeah, let's convert some fantasy story out of these already established characters.
And just make a Willow show. It'll be fine. I mean, I've got a guy named Willow in it. So it must be right?
I don't understand why they treated it with such disrespect.
Or why no real work went into writing it. It feels so much like they make up a lot of this on the spot.
Yeah.
Like on set, they're like, hey, we got this CGI scene that has to happen, and then another one over here, but I got nothing in the middle, so you guys just make something up.
I mean,
you just got to get to here.
Castan has producer credits, but he clearly wasn't involved in the production at all. He just signed off and said, yeah, go ahead.
Here's my money. Just do the thing and send me my
cut every month.
Yep.
Did anyone on the actual production staff actually even watch the goddamn film?
I do not know.
I mean, they must have, because they retconned everything. They took that first episode to say none of that ever happened.
And the part that gets me the most, I think, when I really think about it, and I guess this is the same kind of thing that would make any Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings fan upset, is when you really think about which writer or person had the gall to take a pre-existing story and pre-existing characters, look up and say, I could do it better. I'm just going to rewrite this. I'm going to change everything because I could do it so much better than they did. No, you can't. This is awful. And it's not getting better.
It's not getting better.
I keep hoping
that
it just needs to get better. Like I was hoping by the midpoint, we'd see this increase in stakes, and we'd be like, oh, okay, it just had a rough start, but it's getting better. But it's not, and we are past the midway now.
Who's the not great? Who's the girl?
Which girl?
Not Allura. Jade.
Which one's Jade?
Jade, the redhead, Enfys Nest.
Oh, okay.
You had this opportunity. She's seeking out the people that murdered her family.
Yes.
She's captured by them. And then it turns out that that's actually her family. Basically, she's told everything you've ever known about your life was lies. Here's what really happened. Those butchering murderers that wear human masks were actually your family.
Yes.
That character arc should last the entire series. Not just an entire episode or a season. The entire series.
Yes.
We should see her struggling to come to grips with that. Not just, hey, now we're having a party.
Turns out
I got a family. It's these butchering assholes that cut off people's faces.
Yeah, it turns out I'm one of them. Who knew? That's crazy, right? Well, Have a drink.
You can't be so sloppy with your character development. You will not get away with it.
No.
It comes off stupid.
And lazy.
You will not get away with it. And you didn't. It flies.
No,
it's ridiculous.
It's just ridiculous. Awful. And I so didn't want this to be awful. I wanted this to be, well, I don't want to say great, because that's overextending. I didn't want it to be great. I just wanted it to be good. I just wanted it to be like my guilty pleasure. Like I could enjoy it. Maybe all the critics wouldn't love it, but I would still enjoy it and love it and want to watch it over and over again. No, I am disappointed, and I am struggling to get through this series now.
The only thing, my only expectation for it, I wanted to feel about it at a minimum the way I felt about Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Where it was, okay, no, it wasn't stellar, but it wasn't a total abortion. They got through it. They told the story. Stop. Stop. Don't do any more before you really wreck it.
Right.
That's all I was hoping for with this. Like, all right, it's not going to be anything spectacular, but just don't completely shit the bed. Make it adequate, and we'll be like, okay, good enough. Don't do any more.
But that's not what's going to happen.
What happened? It turned into an absolute abortion, worse than anything I could have imagined.
And I'm sure they were hoping this would go on for multiple seasons. Like, I'm sure
I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. But I mean, if they're trying to build their own Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, whatever, then this was something that they would hope would go on for multiple seasons. I don't see how. This is awful.
You got to try a lot harder than that.
Yeah.
And you are not going to win over an established fan base with pulling shit like this.
Mm-mm. There is a fantasy series coming out to Netflix in 2023 that I am actually excited for. And I didn't think I would be, but I am.
The New Witcher?
It's for, no, not The Witcher, although that's a great series. Well, it was. It's The Last Airbender. And I didn't think I'd be excited for it until I started seeing all of the production stills and like the work that's gone into it and the $12 million per episode that they put into the visual effects. I have hopes for it. Not high hopes, but I have hope for it, for being something a lot better than we're anticipating.
I mean, that film hit rock bottom.
Oh, that film is garbage.
You can't not improve.
That's true. That is true.
So, I mean, the bar is set so low.
Yeah. It is still possible to piss off a legion of fans of that animated series if you do it just a little bit wrong. But I have hope. We'll see.
I can't wait to see how disappointed you are.
I know. Because I had this same level of hope for Willow. And look what happened. Look what happened.
Who is in charge over there?
I don't know. I don't know who's in charge anymore.
Who's making these executive decisions? I get it. They do everything by committee.
Right.
There's not one person on there in that room of 20 people to put their hand up and say, guys, you've got millions of people that love this. You can't just shit on them. That's your primary audience. You're not going to generate new fans.
I can't imagine what it's like in an executive board at Disney, where you've basically got, like, if you've got 12 people, you have basically 11 terrified sheep and one guy who's really in charge. Yeah. And when he's like, I have an idea, we're going to do this. And the other 11 people are just like, okay, whatever you say. Yeah.
I mean, who's going to have the guts?
What a great idea, sir.
Who's going to have the guts to put their hand up and say, light speed skipping is stupid, sir. And here are the reasons it's stupid going back 30 years. Do you want to be a... Shut up and be a team player.
I actually want to get more into that in a different video where we talk about James Gunn. So I want to get into that in something different, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
That's all I got for Willow right now, so leave some comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that stuff.
I'm glad they pulled the plug on Adam Black. I'm glad.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get into that. Watch our review of Adam Black, because oh boy. All right. We'll see you later.
Ciao.
Oh, God.